Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly series on learning about the various different techniques which we can be using as part of our machine learning and deep learning experience. Now, the idea here is that we want to have an end-to-end flow and understanding of the different technologies which are available to us. So, for example, we started off by looking at our basic Python program, right? But now we have started moving beyond that. We have started exploring much more difficult challenges, so to speak, right? That's what we can call them, difficult challenges, right? We are looking at things like Docker now, okay? We are trying to explore different ways in which we can utilize are tools. Now, Docker is a very important tool as part of machine learning. And it's just a very important tool outside of machine learning in general in terms of software development. So today, we're going to see how we can utilize Docker. So let's start off by just walking through the different steps that are required. So first thing that I will do is I'll search for Docker. Okay. Now, what we want to do here is we want to install something known as Docker Desktop. Okay, the installation process is very straightforward. There is no complexity involved, nothing at all. You download the file, you run the file, and it will be installed. Right. If you want, what we can do here is I can uninstall the existing Docker and I can reinstall it. Right. So let's do that. As a matter of fact, I will remove Docker Desktop here. Right. It should take a couple of minutes to remove, and that's it. Okay. Now, first thing, while this is being done here, so simply go on this download for Windows or whichever one you're using and just download it. Straightforward. As simple as that. There's nothing else that you need to do. Right? Here, what we will then do is we'll go for Docker and I will sign up for an account. I'll go to the website. Okay. And here we have the option of utilizing Docker. Now, Docker comes in two different ways. We have the free version and we also have the paid version, right? So we will be relying on the free version. Okay. So uninstallation is done. What I'll do here is I'll click on sign in and I'll have multiple options to sign in. Of course, as you can see here, because I have an account, it's signed in. But in similar fashion, you can also just sign in, right? There's nothing else that you need to do, right? It is a very straightforward process when it comes to utilization of tools. Okay, there's no complexity involved in this. All right. So the next thing that we will look at is we will take a look at installation of Docker. I have downloaded this executable file for Docker. Right. I'll right click on this and I just want to make sure that I'm running this as an administrator. Okay. It will ask you for confirmation and it will start installing Docker. Again, the whole process of installation is very straightforward. Again, you can add the shortcut to your desktop, so it makes it easy to access, and then it will start unloading, unpacking a lot of these files. Now, what are these files? We don't really need to get into it, right? Basically, it is downloading Docker and its dependencies. Okay. So as you can see so far, it is very simple, right? Download the application, and install it. Go to Docker and create an account. Okay, so here we have a few different options. Okay, since we are going to focus on things, since we're going to focus on the open source part of Docker, I'm not going to take a look at the billing or anything like that. But you do have documentations and forums and other tools for yourself. Okay, for example, if you have an organization, right? If I am working for a company, I can use Docker again. But of course, there are certain limitations that we need to keep in mind when we are having this. Now, there is something very important that we are going to focus on. And the next thing is we need to sign up for that important tool. It is within Docker itself, but it is known as Docker. Okay. So Docker Hub is the tool that you will utilize for containerization. Okay. Now Docker Hub is not just for you, but Docker Hub is used universally by everyone. Okay. By every person, they are going to look at Docker. So we'll explore while this is installed. So we have TensorFlow, PyTorch, right? Machine learning and AI. These are all the machine learning and AI related containers. Okay. So for example, I want to use something that might be some AWS virtual plugin, right? Or you can specifically search here. You can, let's say, looking at it via most recent updates. Okay. So maybe I'll search for something like OpenAI. Is there anything available for OpenAI? Yes. Minimal image, OpenAI, framework, right? And you can also see how many pulls they've had. Pulls means how many times has this image been extracted. Okay, so for example, gym. OpenAI gym is very useful. So here, how many times has gym been pulled? Okay, so over 10K times, right? Now, similarly, we have many different options here, right? You're looking at different categories such as web servers, networking, monitoring, and observability. Right? For example, Kibana is there, Grafana is there, right? CloudWatch is there. So we have different options available to us. Similarly, we also have specific options for data science. So remove this. Right? We have things like Spark. Again, here we have Grafana, right? So Apache, Airflow Worker, Airflow Scheduler. So many different options that are available to us. Okay. So you can keep exploring, and depending on your needs, you can decide which one you want. Okay. So you can also ensure that they are verified publishers. You don't want any third-party tools. If you want to ensure that you're getting the good quality itself, right? You can only access verified publishers. Okay. But our focus here is going to be on this repositories. Okay. Now, first question that you might have is, what is Docker? Okay. Docker Hub is a service which is provided by Docker. This allows you to store, share, and manage your Docker images. So just check on in on our Docker desktop. Okay, installation is complete. So I'll open Docker. Okay. So first, let's create an image. You can, these are all basic things that we need to do. Okay. Now here, I'll just quickly, so I'll show you how to sign in. Okay. So Now I'll click on sign in, right? When I open Docker desktop, and it will take me to the login option. Okay. And it's as straightforward as that. Again, nothing in Docker is extremely complex. It's just about understanding how things work. And once you get an idea on the flow of things, it is very straightforward. Now, there are different ways in which we can use Docker. For example, you can utilize Docker directly from the Docker desktop. So we will explore this as well. But first, I will use CMD. This is my default command to run Docker. Okay. So in order to ensure that my Docker is up and running, I'll say Docker run hello. If you get this message which says hello from Docker, that means your Docker is working properly. Okay, this shows that the Docker is working properly. Docker is basically going to be giving you applications, and this hello world is an application. Okay, right now, what I'll do here is will move into this folder. And here I will have these files. There is a very important file for running Docker that we need to create. Okay, so this file is known as my Docker. I'll open my VS Code and I'll just explain how Docker file is going to work. Okay. So Python file for the time being. So here, the first thing that we need to specify here, I'm going to add some concept. So the first thing that we need to specify here is that which version of Python to use. Okay, if you want to see which versions of Python is available to you, you can come over here. You can search for Python and you can see the different options are available. We'll directly go to the actual Python official. You can see here official image from Docker. And these are the different tags which are available to us. Okay, different versions will have different functionalities, different size, right? So the one that we are going to take a look at is known as 3.9 Slim. Okay, of course, you can access depending on your requirements. Okay, I'm sure that you can also find some older versions as per the link. So the first thing that we need to decide here is which version of Python do we go for? Okay, that is the first task at hand. So here I will say from Python, and the Python version that I want to take here is 3.9. Okay, that's it. And then I will create a working directory here. Okay, this working directory is where my application has to be stored. Okay, this is where in Docker, Docker is essentially going to create a virtual computer where my application is going to be stored. And this is what it will be used. So then what I want to do here is to install whatever packages are needed. Okay, and we are talking at an OS level. Now we are not talking about Python packages. Okay, we are talking about system files, right? Okay, we're talking about system files. Now, obviously, even if we are using something like Docker, which enables us to not have to create an entire system, we still need to be able to create some kind of virtual machine. So here, I'll simply run, and the version that we will use here is Linux. And the reason for Linux is very straightforward. Everybody uses Linux. So what we will do here is we will run some Linux. So I'll say apt-get update and apt-get install. -y to press Y automatically. And then what do we want to install? We want to install build essentials. These are all Linux functionalities. Okay, I want to install curl, which is another Linux functionality. It's sort of like a Linux library, you know. Then I want software properties, comma. Then I want to install Git. And finally, I want to remove some files. Okay, whatever redundant files we are having, I want to remove those files. So I'll write rmrf, and then I will go to the library and remove files. By removing the files, I will ensure that I just, keep it lightweight, no junk. Okay. Now, here we had created a location for my application to run on the container. Okay, but the container by itself is empty. The container by itself does not contain anything, right? Even if you're like installing something like, even in real life, if you take a look at it, right? For example, we have a car which has to be shipped from US to India. It is not created or it is not manufactured in the container. It is moved into the container. So similarly, what we will write here is we will write a command, and I will say copy the local Streamlit application, which is what we are using, application into my Docker container. Okay. So I will say copy, and then here we will take our app, and I want to copy everything into the app. Okay, I want to move everything into the app. These are configurations that we are setting. And then after we copy, now we need to look at Python requirements. So for this reason, for my project, I've created my requirements.txt file. So I will run pip3 install our requirements.txt. This will install all the requirements. This will ensure that all the libraries are there. And if you come to the folder where I have this, right here, I have the requirements file created. Okay, these are the basic requirements that we use. Okay, there. Next. Since I'm running a Streamlit application, I want to open, or as we technically call it, expose the port to run the app. Okay, so I will say expose. I will mention the port number. Just 8501, standard port number. Okay, and then I want to add a line to monitor the health of my app. I want to ensure that whatever app that I'm creating is running properly. Okay, whatever application, whatever it may be that we are creating, I want it to be running properly as well as possible. Okay, then continuing forward, we will be writing this. So I'll say health check CMD. So I'll create a CMD command to run this, and I will say curl. In case of any failure, I want you to curl this address. Okay, so we will go to our local host. Within the Docker image, we will run it on localhost, and we are going to take a look at our ST code, and we will add some health codes. Okay, and we will add the exit code, which is exit code. In case of any errors, we want to have exit code. Then the next thing that we need to look at here is we need to give now. How do we create? And creation is fine. How do we run any application? We run streamlit, run some Python file.py. This is the command, right? This is the command that we follow. So I want to give this command. Recreate the CMD command to run streamlit application. Okay, so I will create something known as an entry point. This is the point where the API interacts with each other. What is the first word that we use? We use streamlit. Then there's the next word that we use, run. And what is the next word that we use? The name of our file, which is streamlit.py. Okay, what is the next word that we use? We don't technically need to use anything, but in our case, we will, where I will just give an argument saying that the server port is going to run at 8501. Okay, and that's it. Nothing else. Okay, what we can do then is I'll just save it. So I'll just save it anywhere for the time being. And what I'm going to call it is my Docker. Okay, I don't need to specify any data type here. I don't need to do anything like that. I just need to call it Docker file. That's it. Nothing else is needed. So click on save. So it's required. Okay. Save. Okay, and that's it. My Docker file is created. Okay, so this is how you can create a Docker. There. Now, I have a Docker file created here. I have my requirements.txt file. I have my streamlit file. I have all of these files, right? So we will just open our streamlit file quickly. Just make sure that all the path and everything is correct. There's no mistakes here. Nope. Okay. Now, I will come here and I will start writing the code for building my Docker application. So I'll say Docker build -t. And now I need to build my application. This is the income app. And I will also start giving a very important point here, and that is version. I will mention version dot. Okay, so Docker build here. This is the command that we need to use to build any application. Okay, Docker build is the command we need to utilize for creating any kind of application. Now, -t, what does it do? -t adds a tag. Okay, -t will add a tag. A tag is nothing but the name. And the name that we are giving here is income app. And we are saying -version, :version 1. That means this is the first version that we are creating for this application. Space dot. Space dot will automatically search for the necessary files, which includes the Docker file, preprocessing pickle file, random forest pickle file, requirements file, and Windsor joblib file. It will automatically search for all of these files. So that's it. We'll start running the applications. It will pull all the necessary files from the Docker Hub. Okay. It will automatically pull whatever files are necessary. Okay. And as you can see, it has started doing these applications. Okay. So again, we have built various different files, right? So we'll wait a couple of minutes here, probably is the maximum it will take. Is essentially just downloading all the necessary files that you need to run the basic required version of any Linux system. Okay, and remember, we are using Linux here. Okay, we are using Linux here. We are not using Windows or anything. And of course, there are different versions you can use. Let's see something over here. Sometimes it just crashes. It's okay. So we'll just rerun it. We're just gonna pull all those. It's already pulled, so it should be faster this time around. Okay. So again, what is it doing? It's just taking in all the necessary files which are needed to run a simple Linux machine. Okay. And as we were talking, you can go to the Docker Hub, for example, and here you can check. Let's say I'm mentioning here Ubuntu. So I'll get images for Ubuntu, right? Similarly, if I run Windows. Now, Windows itself does not have any specific version because Windows is paid. Ubuntu is open source. Like, for example, if I have some, like, I'll search for Mac OS here. I'll just give you an example, right? So this is something, I think there is one called Catalina, right? So I'll come here and I'll search for Catalina. And you will not find any specific Catalina OS here because it does not exist in such a way. And here you can see that that was just a connection error that we had. And that issue is resolved. And now I didn't repeat anything. I just rerun the command again. And now it is creating, now it is installing my Python libraries. Okay, the same process that each and every one of you might have followed n number of times. This is nothing new. This here is nothing new. Right. So we just wait here, and you can see here that Python installation is done. The image is created successfully. It is just exporting the layers. Okay. And now what we have done is we have created an isolated application that can run all by itself without requiring any specific OS. So I'll say Docker images. And here you can see we have the image available. Of course, the size is 1.56 GB. But remember, this is including not just the application, but also the Linux OS that is required to run the application. So overall, our application is taking about 1.5 GB of space. Whereas if you were creating a virtual machine, you are looking at maybe 20 GB as the minimum required. And running the command is very easy. I'll say Docker. Again, we will call Docker run. Then I need to specify a port. I want it to run on 8501. And Then I just need to call the application income app colon v1, and you need to specify the exact version. Okay. And here it is going to run. So we'll just click on the link here, and you can see this is running from Docker. Okay, this is running from. So you can upload the file, and you can get the output. Okay, so this is how it is working, right? So that's how you can deploy any application using Docker. Next week, we will see how we can use our own personal repositories to store some applications. And then what is the purpose of that and how we can utilize those stored applications in the future with some cloud platforms. Maybe we'll take a look at an example of something like a GCP application. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, and look forward to seeing you guys next week.